Doors opening. This is a Silver Line train to Ashburn. When boarding, move to the center of the car.
That is where we're going, Tysons Corner Center. That's the mall we're going to. That's known as Tysons 1. This is Tysons 2. That's for another episode. That, Tysons 2, is over there. Tysons 1, Tysons Corner Center, is over there. That's where we're going. Get it, dude. So it gets here, and then you just grab it. Here it comes. Right here. Okay. This sushi? It's so good. Oh my god, it's so good.
YouTube.com/Sal. Come and join us. Go subscribe now.
Hey, what's up, Legion? My name is Sal, it's Christmas time, and this is another expedition log. The story of America's dead malls goes deep, and has so many layers that we've been uncovering on this channel since 2017. But we really can't appreciate just how far some of these malls have fallen without peering into the world of luxury at the success of thriving mega malls. In this episode, we'll be hopping back on the metro one last time on the way home to visit one of America's most profitable malls at its absolute most hectic time of the year, just days before Christmas. As always, thank you to my patrons and elite explorers who have continued to support my efforts directly over the years, and to everyone that has purchased either a super chat on this channel or merch from my website. I'll be running a 15% sale on all merch on the website until January 1, 2025. Just click on an item you want to get its details and serial number and email me those details to reserve your piece. Mention the code TysonLog129 in the email to get the 15% off. I still have quite a few bookmarks left, which immortalize fragile pieces of dead mall plans, some of which no longer exist. I even have a couple of fragments from the Rolling Acres fountain left, so grab them while they're there because they're the last of their kind. I'll be introducing new merch in 2025 with my dead mall dioramas that will finally get produced, along with some fun resin projects that you'll want to treasure forever. Make sure to follow me on my social media, where I'm now posting exclusively on Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram with my handle @SalvatoreAmadeo. Or you can chat with me live on my Discord server at discord.gg/dmod. Links for everything are down below.
Actually, we're gonna go into another entrance. My truck is in another garage, and we are gonna go to the Nordstrom entrance. Let's go.
I'd also like to thank all of you who have recently subscribed and joined me on this grand expedition, with my channel now approaching 200,000 subscribers. I'm humbled and grateful, and I promise not to let you all down, so stick with me and strap in for tons more content over the next few years. But today I'd like all of you to come take a walk with me through the Tysons Corner Center in McLean, Virginia, as we get blinded by Christmas lights and suffocated by what might be the densest crowd of ravenous holiday shoppers I've ever seen. But first, a word from our sponsors. The 1995 Christmas show hosted by David Liebehart and an unhinged Radio Shack spot. Merry Christmas and a happy holiday to all of you, Legion. Enjoy.
The Christmas show, the 1995 show, and let Christmas morn, God is on your side.
As we all know, Christmas time is a very special time of the year.
Ginger house is glowing.
When will you come home? I ask the wind, it answers never. But to hold you now would make Christmas last forever.
Come on, Rudolph!
Merry Christmas!
Hello?
Merry Christmas, honey.
Take a look outside, Dad.
And why at Radio Shack, we'll just bet you can make someone special. Well, Joe.
All right, good folks, let's get the line in there, 843-7722. Hello, you live with Santa.
You name the reindeer.
Can you?
Of course I can.
Bye.
Jump for joy.
Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, that sound system.
You guys like it?
It's Christmas morning, and that's the best gift of all. Radio Shack.
It's right at the corner, Tysons is everything. It's right at the corner, everything's centering. Right at Tysons Corner.
A dozen stores are celebrating Tysons' dozenth anniversary. It's going to be a doozer of a party, all leading up to cutting our 12-foot cake. We've baked in 144 car keys, all good for prizes. And if you've got the right one, winning a free Ford Pinto is a piece of cake.
Tysons Corner Center.
Welcome to the Tysons Corner Center, or as I've known it since I went to school in DC, Tysons 1. Before we jump into the history for this incredible property, I want to clear up some confusion that I've seen and heard over the years. Tysons is an unincorporated neighborhood in Virginia, and until 2011 you had to use the McLean zip code and mailing address to send stuff there. But these days, if you write to someone in Tysons with zip code 22102, the Postal Service will get it where it needs to go. Tysons has two malls. There's the Tysons Corner Center, which we're in right now, and just a half mile away, right across Chainbridge Road, is the Tysons Galleria, or Tysons 2. Both malls are super upscale with tons of luxury tenants and constant success over the years. And while the same company built both of them, these days they're owned and operated independently from each other. We won't be visiting Tysons 2 in this episode, but I might go back to see it down the line. So let me know down in the comments if you're into that idea. The story for Tysons Corner Center goes back over a half century, involving legends of retail development and a rich pedigree of upscale national department stores. So let's dive right into the historical narrative. The Washington, D.C. based Lerner Enterprises was founded in 1952 by Theodore N. Lerner. Mr. Lerner studied law at George Washington University, and 1 year after graduating, he got married to Annette Morris. Young Mr. Lerner did what he had to do to make ends meet. He sold real estate on behalf of developers on the weekends, and he briefly exercised his law degree practicing law when possible. One of his early cases involved a parking attendant who was accused of stealing the cars he was meant to park for customers. Lerner was able to get the parking attendant's sentence reduced from 2 years down to 6 months, but the guy skipped town and he never paid Lerner for his legal services. This hit Lerner the wrong way, so he decided to leave the world of law, and he borrowed $250 from his wife to pursue a career in real estate development. Ted Lerner set out into the world of real estate in 1952 with his wife's $250 and a certain set of house flipping skills that he learned part-time on the weekends. His first year was pretty rough, and he only grossed about $1,000. But Mr. Lerner would persevere through the years and turn this small loan into one of the most valuable properties in the entire world. We're currently headed downstairs to Wasabi, the rotating sushi bar. It's such a cool concept and super fun in this atmosphere. Wasabi opened about 13 or 14 years ago and has a pretty unique operating model. You walk in, sit down, and grab a plate. Each of those plates, as they rotate around the sushi bar, they're color-coded, and when you're finished eating, a waiter comes out of nowhere with your bill, which they've calculated according to the color that you picked.
Okay, so I'm here at Wasabi. This is the rotating sushi bar at Tysons Corner Center Mall. It's one of my favorite places in the world, and the sushi here is really good. You just like watch the thing going around, you watch the sushi go around, you pick one, and then the guy like puts it on your bill like automatically. So I'm gonna grab one and let's see how the stuff is. I mean, I know it's gonna be amazing, but come on. Okay, back there. That's the one right back there. I'm gonna get the California volcano roll. Here it comes. So it gets here, and then you just grab it. Here it comes, right here. Okay, that looks awesome. Let's try it. Okay, this is the volcano roll. Volcano California roll at Wasabi at Tysons Corner Center. There's some crab meat, cucumber. I think there's some avocado in there, and there's like some like spicy stuff. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. One bite. This sushi, because like it's like a total aesthetic vibe in here. I'm in the middle of a mall and it's Christmas, and I guess the sushi is like red and green for Christmas too. I'm giving this okay. This sushi it's so good. $9.6. It's a $9.6 a sushi. If you're in town, if you're in Tysons, go to Wasabi, and get the Volcano California roll. It's so good. Okay, now let's go to Shotted, and we're gonna get a pistachio cream latte.
I had the Volcano California roll on the red plate, which is a normal California roll with spicy mayo and crunchy bits, and I washed it down with a Diet Coke. The meal was about $10, and I paid with Apple Pay. And if I didn't sit there filming my sushi like a TikTok star for 15 minutes, I could have been in and out of there in about 2 minutes. If you're in Tysons, I highly recommend grabbing lunch here. Just watch out for the kids on the escalators. They might accidentally launch something greasy out of their mouths into your food, so be careful. I needed a fix after my sushi, so I ambled over to Shotted for a quad pistachio latte with oat milk. If you've seen those chocolate bars online lately that have the pistachio cream inside from Dubai, this is that candy bar, but in latte form. And it's just so good to not be entirely made of sunshine and drugs or something, I don't know. Also, it's only like $6, so it's a great deal, and it's delicious. And I would probably get 5 if the caffeine didn't make me entirely insane. This cafe, Shotted, started as a pop-up coffee cart in 2019 across the DC metro area. They opened here at Tysons 1 in 2020, specializing in coffee and food, taking inspiration from cuisine and concepts from Dubai and the Arabian Peninsula. It's a really awesome place, and I go every chance I can get.
Okay, this is the pistachio latte from Shotted, and it's a take on that whole pistachio cream craze that you saw all over the internet from that pistachio cream from Dubai that was everywhere, went viral. This is a latte version of that, and on the latte scale, this is like a 9. Oh my god, it's so good.
Okay, so let's get back into the historical narrative. During his second year working as a full-time realtor, Ted Lerner met a local home builder who had 400 empty yet finished houses that just weren't selling. Some of the houses were even decaying already and had moss and mold growing inside of them. The guy gave Lerner 25 houses to flip initially at a cost of $15,000 apiece. It was early November, so Lerner went and wrapped the model home in the lineup with over-the-top Christmas decorations, and then he took out an ad in the paper using his wife's $250 loan to showcase the new homes. He even went around the neighborhood and put Santa Clauses up all over the place to make some sort of elaborate Christmas scene, and he just pulled out all of the stops. This guy went for it. The ad ran on a Friday, and by noon the next day, all 25 houses were sold. The developer called Lerner back and gave him the other 375 houses to sell, which were gone in just 10 days. By 1957, Lerner had sold 22,000 houses and thought that it might be time to go pro. The following year, in 1958, he was offered the opportunity to purchase an 11% stake in developing the Wheaton Plaza shopping mall in a partnership with Baltimore, Maryland-based Homer Gudelsky and Washington, D.C.-based H. Max Ammerman. The partnership opened the Wheaton Plaza Mall in 1960. In the early 1960s, the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors began searching for a retail development firm to lead a new project for a massive regional shopping mall in the Tysons neighborhood of McLean, Virginia. Among countless submissions, the most notable finalist was the Maryland-based Rouse Company. By the time Rouse turned in their prospectus to Fairfax County, they had already opened the Mondawmin Mall in Baltimore, Maryland by October of 1956, which I covered in ExLog 71. They opened the Harrendale Mall in Glen Burnie, Maryland by 1958, and Cherry Hill Mall in New Jersey by 1961. Tysons was going to be Rouse's next project, which he would build on attractive farmland that he owned north of Route 123 in Tysons. But there was a second finalist who came in swinging from up the street in DC named Lerner Enterprises. Lerner also owned a sizable tract of land consisting of farmland and orchards at the intersection of routes 123 and 7 in the Tysons neighborhood, and had proven that he could activate an area of retail servicing the DC metro population with his already established Wheaton Plaza. On May 31, 1962, Fairfax County voted 4-2 in favor of the Lerner-Gudelsky partnership, granting them zoning rights to construct the mall at Tysons Corner. Despite years of competition and a solid display of showmanship, Gudelsky turned around to sell Rouse thousands of acres of land for about $20 million, which Rouse would then develop into the planned community and eventual mall at Columbia, Maryland. Lerner-Gudelsky would begin construction on their new Tysons, Virginia mall in 1965 with Bethesda, Maryland-based HCB Construction serving as general contractor. Lerner-Gudelsky secured a $30 million loan from the Connecticut General Life Insurance Company to build the mall, which at the time was the most substantial loan issued yet for a shopping mall development. The mall would sit on a plot of land directly between Chainbridge Road and Leesburg Pike, and would offer motorists traveling along the Capitol Beltway their own exit for the shopping center at Tysons Corner, which had opened as exit 46A on I-495 in 1964. Construction would take about 3 years, and on July 25, 1968, the grand opening and ribbon-cutting ceremony took place for the $20 million Tysons Corner Center. The 1.5 million square foot, one-level mall opened with Woodward and Lothrop and the Hecht Company serving as senior anchors and a Woolworth as their junior. The mall was one of the first regional enclosed shopping malls in the Washington, D.C. area. While Landmark Mall was open up the street in Alexandria, built by Howard Hughes in 1965, Landmark began its life as an open-air shopping mall, and it wouldn't be enclosed until the 90s. I covered Landmark Mall 6 years ago in ExLog 20. Over 100 stores opened inside of the mall, including Kinney Shoes, Hot Shops, People's Drug, Phillips Bourne, Raleigh Haberdasher, Tom McAn, Russell Stover Candies, and Kay Jewelry stores. The property even had zoning permits for eventual construction of high-rise buildings for offices, since the area was primed for such a rapid expansion, and they would exercise those rights over the years to build towers that would eventually surround the entire mall. A Washington, D.C.-based Lanesburg's department store opened as the third senior anchor at Tysons Corner Center as the chain was expanding into suburban markets. The store was actually scheduled to open with the rest of the mall in 1968, but due to a zoning dispute with the county and a fight over leasing prices, it was delayed for over a year. But it finally opened its doors on October 19, 1969. But Lanesburg's didn't last long, and closed in 1973 when the entire chain dissolved and rebranded to another of their parent company mastheads, Lit Brothers. The Lit Brothers store opened from 1973 until 1975. 1 year later, Bloomingdale's opened its first full-line branch outside of New York City at Tysons Corner Center in the old Lanesburg-turned-Lit Brothers space on September 9, 1976. Tysons Corner Center opened featuring 5 distinct and unique courtyards. There was the Fashion Court with its open space and grand staircase, the Fountain Court with a more open natural feel with greenery and live plants in front of the Hechts, the Umbrella Court with giant umbrellas hanging from the ceiling in front of Bloomingdale's, the Clock Court in front of Woody's, and finally the Aviary Court with boundless tropical birds exercising their rambunctious cloacal material all over the place. The 70s must have been a hell of a time. The extremely well-lit brick floor-lined mall offered a coat-checking service for shoppers that was manned by the Salvation Army. There was a babysitting service so shoppers can go do their shopping without thinking about their kids, and there was even a, quote, photoelectric exhaust system, close quote, used to purify the air inside the mall since everybody was smoking their brains out back in the 70s. Into the 1980s, we were beginning to see the great mall expansion that took shape through the United States. Here in Virginia, we saw the opening of both Potomac Mills and the Fair Oaks Mall. Older malls such as the Springfield Town Center and Manassas malls were slated to receive expansive renovations to bolster their own relevance within local retail markets. Let me know if any of you want to see any of these 4 malls in their own episodes. Let me know down in the comments. Following the lead of other local malls, Lerner decided that it was time to not only expand Tysons Corner Center with an entire additional floor, but also to build a second mall just a half-mile away from Tysons Corner Center, otherwise known as Tysons 1. Lerner then fell into a heated legal battle with his partners Gudelsky and Ammerman, who were looking for a way to dissolve the partnership over Lerner's purported efforts to block the Hecht Company from opening a new store at Wheaton Plaza. The partners alleged that Lerner wanted to paralyze growth at Wheaton Plaza to solidify his own majority stake in the White Flint Mall up the street in Maryland. By 1981, Lerner paid $21 million to exit the partnership, which allowed him to acquire full ownership for the other half of the land in the Tysons neighborhood of McLean, which was at one time owned by Jim Rouse. By the mid-1980s, Lerner was entirely focused on construction efforts at the second Tysons Corner Mall, otherwise known as Tysons 2. And in 1985, he sold the Tysons Corner Center, or Tysons 1, to the Dallas, Texas-based Lendorf Group for $167 million. Lendorf then announced a gargantuan expansion project for Tysons 1 in 1986, which would see a second floor added to the mall, along with 2 brand new anchor stores. Work began on the $150 million redevelopment in the summer of 1987 and would take about a year and a half to complete. Seeing the empty Santa Claus chalet here made me think of a book my mom used to read to me as a kid every Christmas Eve, The Polar Express by Chris Van Allsburg. It's not a very long book, but I'd like to read it to all of you over the course of this episode to remind you of a simpler, more innocent time. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I laid quietly in my bed. I didn't rustle the sheets, I breathed slowly and silently. I was listening for a sound a friend told me I'd never hear, the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. There's no Santa, my friend insisted, but I knew he was wrong. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal. I looked through my window and saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest, then looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe. I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. "All aboard!" the conductor cried out. I ran up to him. "Well," he said, "are you coming?" "Where?" I asked. "Why, to the North Pole, of course," was his answer. "This is the Polar Express." I took his outstretched hand and he pulled me aboard. The train was filled with other children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. We sang Christmas carols and ate candies with nougat centers as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa as thick and rich as melted chocolate bars. Outside, the lights of towns and villages flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced northward. Soon, there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through cold, dark forests where lean wolves roamed and white-tailed rabbits hid from our train as it thundered through the quiet wilderness. We climbed mountains so high it seemed as if we would scrape the moon. But the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster and faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys like a car on a roller coaster. The mountains turned into hills, the hills to snow-covered plains. We crossed a barren desert of ice, the Great Polar Ice Cap. Lights appeared in the distance. They looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on a frozen sea. "There," said the conductor, "is the North Pole." On Friday, March 4, 1988, Tysons 1 celebrated the grand opening of its third senior anchor, a brand new 210,000 square foot Nordstrom, which came in at a cost of $21 million. There was a soft opening the night before with a black tie event for local politicians, famous people, and C-suite executives from the Washington, D.C. metro area. And they were there to celebrate Nordstrom opening their first store on the East Coast in the United States. Nordstrom actually did about $5,000 in sales the night of the black tie event, but during the actual grand opening, the store pulled in over $500,000 in just one day alone. It was with the opening of Nordstrom that Tysons 1 saw the introduction of its second floor of retail space, bringing the total leasable area to about 2 million square feet. But Lendorf didn't build the second floor on top of the first. Instead, the contractors dug out the foundation to create a new first floor. When the mall reopened in 1988, Mike Graham was hired as Santa Claus for the mall, in what he thought would just be a temporary job while he looked for a Santa Claus gig out in Hawaii. There was a fantastic interview with Mike that was published in the Fairfax Machine covering his amazing career as the Tysons Corner Center Santa Claus, which he remains to this very day in 2024. But in the interview, he recalls what the mall was like back in the late 1980s, and he recounts that they had just dug out the first floor at the mall to create a second floor where the first floor used to be. And if Santa Claus says it's true, it has to be true. As seemingly impossible as an engineering feat it might be, I believe the guy.
Coming up on Christmas, Hanukkah, all these holidays around us, and this place is absolutely packed. It is a Saturday. I just played a gig and decided to stop by, and I got the footage you've been watching. This place is a zoo. It's absolutely insane that there's so many people here. Although I guess it's a Saturday, but it's still packed. Like, I don't know if you've been counting the empty storefronts, but I think I counted like 3, maybe 4, and those were still just being renovated. This is something else. This is one of the most thriving malls I think I've ever seen, second possibly to the American Dream Mall up in the Meadowlands. This place is incredible. Oops. I definitely just almost ate a whole bag of shit coming on this escalator. Oh God, I can't even talk anymore.
By 1990, Lord & Taylor had opened at Tysons 1, and Tysons 2 was already into its second year of business. Both malls were thriving individually, and there was even a new bridge connecting the two, which was part of a $10 million infrastructure program when both malls were undergoing construction in the late 80s. Woodward and Lothrop then entered Chapter 11 bankruptcy on January 18, 1994, with about $50 million in debt that they couldn't cover with their current assets. The company liquidated all Woody's locations along with its John Wanamaker subsidiary, and by November of 1995, the chain had closed and sold interest to all of its retail footprint, including the locations at Tysons 1, leaving the mall without an active senior anchor for the first time. 1 year later, a Rainforest Cafe opened at the mall in October of 1996. The vacant Woody's space would be filled quickly though, when a JCPenney moved in by early 1996, equipping the already well-endowed Tysons 1 for the new millennium with not only a full set of senior anchors and nearly 100% occupancy, but also its luxury boy ward, Tysons 2, a half-mile away, generating even more retail traffic for the entire area. By the early 2000s, with Tysons 1 thriving and fully occupied, it even had robust outparcel stores such as a Circuit City, which sat directly to the north of Lord & Taylor and JCPenney. LL Bean opened their first full-line department store outside of Maine here at Tysons 1 in 2000, and the following year, Apple would launch their very first retail store in 2001. Then in 2002, Wilmerite Properties partnered with the Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation to purchase the Tysons Corner Center for an undisclosed amount, as the Alaska Fund already held a majority stake in the mall after pushing Lendorf out. The deal closed in January of 2002, and the Washington Post reported that the actual selling price was expected to be around $515 million, but not to exceed $525 million. Yeah, they bought the mall for $500 million. By 2004, there were fledgling signs of an impending economic collapse. Housing prices were shooting up at an unsustainable rate, which seemed positive in the short term, but was sullied by loosening lending standards from banks offering subprime mortgages to unqualified borrowers. Consumer debt was growing and the stock market was attempting to rebound from instability in the early 2000s, led by huge global economic risks as a result from the 9/11 attacks and the war in Iraq. Wilmerite saw the signs of a weakening economy and wanted to unload their $500 million investment. So they shopped around for bids on their entire portfolio and found a buyer in Santa Monica, California-based Macerich, who purchased the entire slate of Wilmerite properties in 2005 for $2.3 billion, which included the Tysons Corner Center. Later in 2005, after struggling to keep up with its luxury counterparts in the area, the JCPenney closed, and the anchor space was set for immediate demolition to make way for yet another expansion here at the mall. In 2006, a brand new outdoor plaza opened next to Lord & Taylor, along with an AMC multiplex, which held its grand opening in a new 3-floor section at Tysons 1 where the JCPenney once stood, and featured a new food court across from the movie theater, along with junior anchors Old Navy and Barnes & Noble. Then on September 9 of 2006, after the Hex chain was acquired by Federated Department Stores, Macy's began operation at Tysons 1. It was also around this time that I began studying violin with Luis Haza at his place in McLean, and whenever I'd drive in for a lesson, I would always stop at Tysons 1 for lunch and a walk around the mall before heading back to school.
Oh. This is such a cool elevator. You can see through everything. This is so cool. God, this mall is incredible. Oh, it's gonna open this way, I think. Right? I think so. People are waiting here. Oops. Yeah, okay.
The recession struck in December of 2007, lasting until June 2009. While mall developers around the country would be affected by subprime mortgage balloon payments into the 2010s, coupled with the collapse of their property value, forcing a wide string of foreclosures and bankruptcy and kicking off the formal death spiral of American shopping malls, the Tysons Corner Center would be unscathed. At the time, developers were stuck in court defending assessment values for their malls to avoid paying just an extra $10,000 a year in property tax. But by 2013, the Tysons Corner Center had been assessed for $1 billion, making it the most valuable property in the entire area by a huge margin. Adding to Tysons' arsenal of profitability, the Washington, D.C. Metro Silver Line opened on July 26, 2014. Tysons has a metro stop, which you saw in the beginning of the episode, including a bridge connecting travelers by foot directly to the north entrance of the mall. It took me about 30 minutes by train to get from L'Enfant Plaza in the middle of D.C. to Tysons, and that included a delay when conductors swapped out at the Kennedy Center stop. The only actual casualties that lasted for more than a year at Tysons Corner Center were the Lord & Taylor, who had shuttered all brick-and-mortar operations in 2020 after years of declining sales and failed efforts to modernize the brand, and a Gordon Biersch brewery, which closed around the same time. While COVID did have a hand in closing Lord & Taylor, it would only temporarily close Tysons 1 for a few months, and when they reopened, the mall returned to its nearly $1,500 per square foot sales in just about a year. On December 28, 2021, Macerich announced a plan to redevelop the old Lord & Taylor space into a 350 to 400 foot tower with 500,000 square feet of office and residential space, along with 50,000 square feet of retail at the North Plaza. As you can tell from the footage you've been watching, this still has not happened as of 2024. Further changes came to the mall when the LL Bean shuttered in 2022 and was reconfigured into several smaller tenants, which have since been occupied. Along with Apple moving its very first retail store to a bigger parcel inside the mall on the 22nd anniversary of the original store's opening here at Tysons 1. By the end of 2024, I showed up to the mall to capture the footage you just watched. I'm still waiting to hear news of the Lord & Taylor building actually being redeveloped, but in the near future, we're going to see 2 new restaurants and a bold new entertainment venue here at Tysons Corner Center. The Cheesecake Factory over at Tysons Galleria, which had been open since 2003, closed in late November of 2024, and they opened a new location here at Tysons 1 on December 5. And Maggiano's Italian Restaurant announced that they'll be closing their Tysons 2 location in favor of a new spot here at Tysons 1, which should happen sometime in 2025. And I'm sure you've noticed active construction in this footage underneath of the third floor food court, which will introduce a level 99 entertainment venue, which looks like an adult discovery zone, and I'm pumped to go there when it opens. The future for Tysons Corner Center really is as positive as it can get for any mall I've ever seen. The North Pole. It was a huge city standing alone at the top of the world, filled with factories where every Christmas toy was made. At first we saw no elves. They're gathering at the center of the city, the conductor told us. That's where Santa will give the first gift of Christmas. Who receives the first gift? We all asked. The conductor answered, he will choose one of you. Look! Shouted one of the children. The elves! Outside, we saw hundreds of elves. As our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole, we slowed to a crawl. So crowded were the streets with Santa's helpers. When the Polar Express could go no farther, we stopped and the conductor led us outside. We pressed through the crowd to the edge of a large open circle. In front of us stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were excited. They pranced and paced, ringing the silver sleigh bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing I'd ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart and Santa Claus appeared. The elves cheered wildly. He marched over to us and, pointing to me, said, "Let's have this fellow here." He jumped into his sleigh. The conductor handed me up and I sat on Santa's knee and he asked, "Now what would you like for Christmas?" I knew that I could have any gift I could imagine, but the thing I wanted most for Christmas was not inside Santa's giant bag. What I wanted more than anything was one silver bell from Santa's sleigh. When I asked, Santa smiled. Then he gave me a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from a reindeer's harness. The elf tossed it up to Santa. He stood holding the bell high above him and called out, "The first gift of Christmas." A clock struck midnight as the elves roared their approval. Santa handed the bell to me and I put it in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh. Santa shouted out the reindeers' names and cracked his whip. His team charged forward and climbed into the air. Santa circled once above us, then disappeared in the cold, dark polar sky. As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked to see the bell. I reached into my pocket, but the only thing I felt was a hole. I had lost the silver bell from Santa Claus' sleigh. "Let's hurry outside and look for it," one of the children said. But the train gave a sudden lurch and started moving. We were on our way home. It broke my heart to lose the bell. When the train reached my house, I sadly left the other children. I stood at my doorway and waved goodbye. The conductor said something from the moving train, but I couldn't hear him. "What?" I yelled out. He cupped his hands around his mouth. "Merry Christmas!" he shouted. The Polar Express let out a loud blast from its whistle and sped away. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents. When it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was the silver bell. There was a note. "I found this on the seat of my sleigh. Fix that hole in your pocket. Signed, Mr. C." I shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." "Yes," said my father, "it's broken." When I'd shaken the bell, my parents had not heard a sound. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas that she could no longer hear its sweet sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me as it does for all who truly believe. How about all of you out there, Legion? When Christmas comes around, can you hear the bells? I'd like to thank all of you for watching my video. Christmas is the most magical time. And with this being my final episode of 2024, I wanted to end the year with as much positivity as I could think of, and the story of Tysons Corner Center is as positive as it gets. My heart is incredibly full. My inspiration to produce this series is at an absolute all-time high, and it's the best ExLog Christmas I've ever had, especially since we're about to hit 200,000 subscribers, which is just amazing. Thanks once again to my patrons and elite explorers and everyone that has sent me a super chat or supported me directly over the years. All of you are shoveling Santa's coal into the ExLog furnace, and I have so much more content that I can't wait to show you. I'll be back in early 2025 with ExLog 130 as we wind down my new home in Virginia mall tour, or whatever it's called, and gear up for the 5-year grind across my endless backlog of already filmed dead malls around the United States. I really can't wait to show all of you the footage I filmed in the last year. It's some of the best stuff I've ever shot. But until next year, please stay safe out there, Legion. Take care of yourselves, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and a beautiful New Year. And have a fantastic day.
The Christmas show, the 1995 show. And last Christmas morn, God is on your side.
As we all know, Christmas time is a very special time of the year.
Ginger house is glowing. When will you come home, I ask. The wind, it answers never. But told you now would make Christmas last forever.
Come on, Rudolph!
Merry Christmas!
Hello?
Merry Christmas, honey.
Take a look outside, Dad.
And why at Radio Shack, we'll just bet you can make someone special. Well, just.
All right, there, folks. Let's get flying in here. 843-7722. Hello, you live with Santa.
Can you name the reindeer?
Can you?
Of course I can.
Bye.
Well, jump for joy.
Oh, isn't that nice? That sounds nice.
You guys like it?
It's Christmas morning, and that's the best gift of all. Radio Shack.
It's right at the corner. Tysons is everything. It's right at the corner. Everything centering. Right at Tysons Corner.
A dozen stores are celebrating Tysons' dozenth anniversary. It's going to be a doozer of a party, all leading up to cutting our 12-foot cake. We've baked in 144 car keys, all good for prizes. And if you've got the right one, winning a free Ford Pinto is a piece of cake.
Tysons Corner Center.